The Veltari Empire had ruled the Orion sector for 12,000 years. Their ships were beautiful things of silver and light. Their weapons could turn planets into dust. Their armies numbered in the billions. No species in the known galaxy dared to challenge them, until the Kreth arrived. The Kreth came from the dark space between galaxies. Nobody knew where they had come from or what they wanted. They simply appeared one day at the edge of Veltari space with a fleet of black ships that blocked out the stars. They did not communicate. They did not negotiate. They only destroyed. Admiral Zex then stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Light, and watched his fleet burn. 300 warships had met the Kreth in the Balanos system. Now only 47 remained, and more were dying every minute. "We cannot hold," his second officer said. Her blue skin had turned pale with fear. "Their weapons cut through our shields like they are not there." Zex then gripped the railing in front of him. His forearms trembled with rage and helplessness. The Veltari had never known defeat. They had conquered 100 worlds. They had crushed every enemy that stood before them. Now they were being slaughtered like animals. "Send the distress signal," Zex then ordered. "Broadcast on all frequencies. Every ally we have. Every species that owes us tribute. Call them all. Admiral, the Council will not approve. The Council sits in their towers on Veltara Prime while we die out here." Zex then shouted. "Send the signal. Call for backup. Anyone who can hear us." The communications officer worked quickly at her station. The distress signal shot out into space at faster than light speeds. It traveled through hyperspace relays and across the vast distances between stars. It reached a dozen allied species. It reached neutral worlds. It reached places the Veltari had never explored. And it reached a small blue planet called Earth. Captain Sarah Chen was drinking coffee in the mess hall of the USS Defiance when the alarm sounded. She set down her cup and walked calmly to the bridge. After 20 years in the United Earth Fleet, she had learned that running only made her tired. "Report," she said as she stepped through the door. Commander Jackson turned from his station. "We picked up something strange, Captain. A signal from outside our solar system. It seems to be a distress call." Chen sat down in her chair and crossed her legs. "Play it." The bridge filled with a strange voice. It spoke in a language Chen had never heard, but the universal translator built into the ship's computer worked quickly. Within seconds, the words became clear. "This is Admiral Zex, then of the Veltari Empire. We are under attack by unknown hostile forces. Our fleet is being destroyed. We request immediate assistance from any species that can hear this message. Please help us. We cannot survive alone." The bridge was silent for a long moment. "Well," Chen said finally, "that's interesting." "Captain," Jackson said carefully, "that signal came from over 500 light-years away, and it mentions aliens. Real aliens. I noticed. What do we do?" Chen thought about it. Humanity had suspected for years that they were not alone in the universe. They had built ships that could travel faster than light. They had explored dozens of star systems, but they had never found other intelligent life. Now that life had found them, "Contact Earth Command," Chen ordered. "Send them the signal. Tell them we need orders." The response from Earth came faster than Chen expected. Within 6 hours, she received a message directly from Admiral Morrison, the commander of the entire United Earth Fleet. "Captain Chen, you are ordered to hold your position. A task force is being assembled. We are going to answer that distress call." 3 weeks later, the largest fleet in human history gathered at the edge of the solar system. 200 warships hung in the darkness of space. They ranged from small frigates to massive battleships. At the center of the formation floated the Titan, the flagship of Admiral Morrison himself. Chen stood on the bridge of the Defiance and watched the other ships through her view screen. Her heart beat faster than usual. This was the moment humanity had waited for. First contact with alien life. Of course, that contact would happen in the middle of a war. "All ships. This is Admiral Morrison," the radio crackled. "We have analyzed the distress signal. We have mapped a route to the source. The journey will take approximately 2 days, at maximum hyperspace speed. When we arrive, we may find ourselves in the middle of a battle. We may find nothing but wreckage. We do not know what awaits us." Morrison paused. When he spoke again, his voice was firm, but someone called for help. And humanity does not ignore those in need. "All ships, engage hyperspace drives. Let's go meet our neighbors." The fleet shimmered and vanished into the strange dimension that allowed faster-than-light travel. Chen watched the stars stretch into lines around her ship. She wondered what they would find on the other side. She also wondered if humanity was ready for this. Admiral Zexthan had stopped counting the dead. His fleet had been reduced to 18 ships. The Kreth had pulled back for now, regrouping for another attack. But Zexthan knew it was only a matter of time. His people would not survive another assault. Admiral, his communications officer said weakly, "We are receiving responses to our distress call." "From who?" "The Marlac Confederacy has sent their regrets. They say they cannot spare any ships." "Of course not," Zexthan muttered. The Marlac were cowards. He had always known it. The Dren Assembly says they are too far away to help in time. The Hollow Council. They did not respond at all. Zexthan closed his eyes. He had expected this. The Veltari had ruled through fear for too long. They had made subjects, not allies. Now, when they needed help, no one would come. "Wait," the officer said suddenly. "Admiral, there is another response. It came from a species I do not recognize. They call themselves humans." "Humans?" "I have never heard of them. Neither have I, Admiral. But they say they are coming." "How many ships?" The officer checked her console. "They say 200. Zexthan felt a flicker of hope. 200 ships was not enough to defeat the Kreth, but it might be enough to survive. It might be enough to escape. "When will they arrive?" "They say 2 days. We may not have 2 days." As if to prove his point, the sensors began screaming. The Kreth fleet was moving again. Hundreds of black ships advanced toward the Veltari position, their weapons charged with dark energy. "All ships, prepare for battle," Zexthan ordered. He drew his ceremonial blade from his belt. If this was to be his last fight, he would meet it with honor. The Kreth ships opened fire. Energy beams sliced through space. Veltari ships exploded. Zexthan watched the Starborn, one of his oldest warships, break apart in a flash of light. And then something impossible happened. Space itself seemed to tear open. 200 points of light appeared in the darkness. Ships emerged from hyperspace in a perfect formation. They were unlike anything Zexthan had ever seen. Their designs were angular and aggressive, all sharp edges and heavy armor. Their hulls were gray and black, decorated with symbols he did not recognize. "This is Admiral Morrison of the United Earth Fleet," a voice announced on all frequencies. "Sorry we're late. Hang on. We're coming in hot." The human ships opened fire. Chen had never seen anything like it. The Kreth ships were massive, easily twice the size of the largest human vessel. Their weapons tore through shields and armor with terrifying ease. They should have been unstoppable. But humans had learned a long time ago that size was not everything. "All batteries. Fire at will," she commanded. The Defiance unleashed a storm of weapons. Railgun slugs traveling at a fraction of the speed of light slammed into the nearest Kreth ship. Missiles armed with nuclear warheads followed close behind. Laser beams cut through the darkness. The Kreth ship shuddered. Then it exploded. Across the battlefield, the same scene repeated. Human ships were smaller, faster, and more maneuverable. They darted between the slow-moving Kreth vessels, striking from angles the enemy could not defend. Weapons that the galaxy had never seen ripped through alien armor. "Captain," Jackson said with wonder in his voice, "we're actually winning." Chen allowed herself a small smile. "Let's not get too excited. We've just started." The battle raged for 3 hours. The Kreth were not stupid. They adapted their tactics. They focused their fire on individual human ships. They tried to retreat, to regroup, but the humans would not let them. "All ships pursue," Morrison ordered. "Do not let them escape. Hit them hard and keep hitting them." The human fleet chased the Kreth across the system. More and more black ships fell to human weapons. By the time the surviving Kreth finally fled into hyperspace, they had lost over half their force. The battlefield fell silent. Wreckage floated everywhere. Veltari ships, Kreth ships, and yes, human ships too. They had not escaped without losses. 18 human vessels had been destroyed. Hundreds of sailors were dead, but they had won. "Open a channel to the Veltari flagship," Morrison ordered. Admiral Zexthan's face appeared on the view screen. He had 4 eyes, blue skin, and 4 arms. He looked exhausted. He also looked amazed. "I am Admiral Morrison of the United Earth Fleet. We received your distress call. I hope we're not too late to help." Zexthan stared at him for a long moment. Then, slowly, he began to laugh. It was a strange sound, clicking and buzzing. But Chen recognized the emotion behind it. "Admiral Morrison," Zexton said, "I do not know who your people are or where you come from, but I have never been so happy to see anyone in my life." "We're from Earth," Morrison said. "It's a small planet you've probably never heard of. We're new to this whole galactic community thing, but we heard you needed help, so we came." "You saved us," Zexton said. His voice was quiet now, filled with something that might have been shame. "My people, we have not always been kind to others. We have ruled through strength, not compassion, and yet you came to help us anyway." "Everyone deserves a chance," Morrison replied. "Now, I think we need to talk. Those black ships will be back, and we need to figure out what we're going to do about it." 3 hours later, the leaders of both fleets met on the Titan. Chen was there, along with a dozen other senior human officers. Zex then brought what remained of his command staff. They sat across from each other in the conference room, two species meeting for the first time. One had ruled the stars for millennia. The other had only left their planet a few centuries ago, and yet the humans had proven themselves equal in battle. "Tell me about your people," Zex then said. "Tell me about Earth." Morrison glanced at Chen. She nodded slightly. He turned back to the Veltari admiral and began to speak. He told Zex then about Earth, about the blue oceans and green forests, about the billions of humans who called it home. He told him about human history, about the wars they had fought, the diseases they had survived, the disasters they had overcome. He told him about the atomic bombs and the world wars, about climate change and pollution, about all the times humanity had come close to destroying itself. And he told him about how humans had always found a way to keep going. "We are not a peaceful species," Morrison admitted. "We have hurt each other terribly over the years. We have done terrible things, but we have also done great things. We have learned from our mistakes. We have grown." Zex then listened in silence. When Morrison finished, the alien admiral leaned back in his chair. "You are strange creatures," Zex then said. "In my experience, species that fight among themselves do not survive long enough to reach the stars. And yet here you are." "We're stubborn," Chen said. Zex then looked at her. "I believe that, Captain. I watched your ships today. They fought like nothing I have ever seen. Your weapons, your tactics, your courage. It was impressive. We've had a lot of practice fighting each other," Morrison said dryly. "Turns out that's good preparation for fighting aliens." The Veltari officers shifted uncomfortably. They had ruled the galaxy for so long. They were not used to being impressed by other species. "The Kreth will return," Zexton said. "They do not give up. They will bring more ships, more weapons. What happened today will not stop them. Then we'll fight them again," Morrison said simply. "You would do that? You would risk your people, your ships, for a species you have only just met?" Morrison smiled. It was a strange smile, tired and sad but also determined. "Admiral Zex then, let me tell you something about humans. We have this idea on Earth. It's called helping your neighbor. When someone is in trouble, you help them. You don't ask what they can do for you. You don't ask if they deserve it. You just help." He leaned forward. "The Kreth attacked you. They're trying to destroy your people. As far as we're concerned, that makes them our enemy too. We came out here to help, and we're not going to leave until the job is done." Zex then was quiet for a long moment. Then he did something that surprised everyone in the room. He stood up from his chair and bowed deeply. "Admiral Morrison," he said, "the Veltari Empire owes you a debt that we can never repay. You saved our lives today. You showed us courage and honor that we have forgotten. From this moment on, humanity has a friend among the stars." Morrison stood and extended his hand. Zex then looked at it in confusion. "It's a human custom," Chen explained. "A gesture of friendship and respect." Zex then reached out with one of his forearms and grasped Morrison's hand. The two admirals shook firmly. "Now," Morrison said, "let's talk about how we're going to win this war." Across the galaxy, the Kreth observed. Their commanders analyzed the battle data. They studied the new ships that had appeared. They calculated and planned. These new creatures, these humans, were a problem. They were stronger than expected. Their weapons were strange and effective. Their tactics were unusual, but the Kreth had destroyed 1,000 species. They would destroy this one too. They just needed more ships. Deep in the darkness between galaxies, the Kreth began to call for reinforcements of their own. This war was just beginning. and humanity had no idea what was coming. The War Council met on Veltara Prime, the capital world of the Veltari Empire. Captain Chen had never seen anything like it. The planet was beautiful beyond words. Crystal towers rose a mile into the sky. Gardens floated on clouds of anti-gravity. Rivers of pure light flowed through the streets. But all that beauty could not hide the fear in the air. Chen walked beside Admiral Morrison as they entered the council chamber. It was a vast circular room at the heart of the tallest tower. Representatives from a dozen species filled the seats around them. Some had 4 arms like the Veltari. Some had tentacles. Some looked like giant insects. Some had no physical form at all, just clouds of glowing energy. And all of them were staring at the humans. "They're not happy to see us," Morrison muttered under his breath. "Can you blame them?" Chen replied. "We showed up and did in one battle what their entire alliance couldn't do in months." They took their seats at the table. Admiral Zex then sat across from them. He nodded slightly in greeting. Chen nodded back. The High Chancellor of the Veltari rose from her throne. She was ancient. Her blue skin faded almost to gray. Her name was Talvora, and she had ruled the Empire for 300 years. "This council is called to order," she announced. "We face the greatest threat in the history of our civilization. The Kreth have destroyed 47 of our worlds. They have killed billions of our citizens. Our fleets have failed to stop them." She paused and looked directly at the humans. And then these strangers appeared. These humans. They answered our call for help when no one else would. They fought beside our ships. They drove the Kreth back. Murmurs ran through the chamber. Chen caught words in a dozen languages. Some were confused. Some were suspicious. Some were angry. "I have invited Admiral Morrison to address this council," Talvora continued. "He will explain who his people are and what they propose to do next." Morrison stood. He was a big man, tall and broad-shouldered, with gray hair and sharp eyes. He had fought in 3 wars on Earth before humanity reached the stars. He knew how to handle hostile crowds. "Thank you, High Chancellor," he said. "I'll keep this simple. My people come from a planet called Earth, about 500 light-years from here. We've been exploring space for a few centuries now. We've built colonies on a dozen worlds. We have a military fleet of about 2,000 warships. That caused a stir. 2,000 ships was not a large number by galactic standards. The Veltari alone had once commanded 10,000, but after the Kreth attacks, everyone knew that numbers were not as important as weapons. "We received your distress call by accident," Morrison continued. "Honestly, we didn't even know you existed until a few weeks ago. But when we heard that someone was in trouble, we came to help. That's what humans do." A Dren representative rose from her seat. The Dren were tall and thin, with silver skin and no visible eyes. They communicated through vibrations in the air. "And what do you want in return?" she asked. "No species helps another without expecting something." "A fair question," Morrison replied. "For now, we want nothing except to stop the Kreth. They attacked our new allies. That makes them our enemies. We'll deal with the political stuff later." "You speak of 2,000 ships," another delegate said. This one was Marlak, a squat creature covered in thick scales. "The Kreth command tens of thousands. What can you possibly do against such numbers?" Morrison smiled. It was not a friendly smile. "Let me show you something." He pressed a button on the table. A holographic display appeared in the center of the room. It showed the battle from 2 days ago. The recording focused on a single human ship, the Defiance, as it engaged a Kreth vessel 3 times its size. The council watched in silence as the Defiance dodged and weaved, striking from unexpected angles. They watched as railgun rounds tore through Kreth armor. They watched as the massive enemy ship exploded. "The Kreth are bigger than us," Morrison said. "Their ships are more powerful, but they're slow and predictable. Our weapons are different from yours. We developed them for fighting each other, not for conquering weaker species. Every human warship is designed to kill things bigger than itself. Your weapons," Zex then said, "they are remarkable. We analyzed the battle data. Your projectile launchers accelerate metal to incredible speeds. Your explosives release energy equivalent to a small star. Your laser systems are more efficient than anything we have seen. We call them railguns, nuclear missiles, and combat lasers," Morrison explained. "Standard military equipment on Earth. We've been improving them for centuries." The Hollow Council representative spoke for the first time. The hollow were beings of pure energy, glowing spheres that floated in the air. Their voice seemed to come from everywhere at once. "Your species is violent," they said. "We can feel it in your thoughts. You have fought wars among yourselves, terrible wars. How do we know you will not turn those weapons on us?" Chen expected Morrison to get angry. Instead, he simply nodded. "You're right," he said. "Humans have done terrible things to each other. We've fought wars over land, over resources, over ideas. We've built weapons that could destroy our entire planet. We came very close to doing exactly that. More than once." He paused. "But we also learned from those mistakes. We learned that cooperation is better than conquest. We learned that helping each other is more valuable than hurting each other. It took us a long time, and we're still not perfect. But we're trying." He looked around the room, meeting every alien eye. "I won't pretend that humans are saints. We're not. But right now, we have a common enemy. The Kreeth don't want to negotiate. They don't want to trade. They just want to destroy. So you have a choice. You can sit here and argue about whether to trust us, or you can fight beside us and survive." The chamber was silent. Finally, High Chancellor Talvora spoke. "The human admiral is correct. The time for debate is over. The Kreeth will not wait for us to make up our minds. I propose a military alliance between the Veltari Empire and the United Earth Fleet. All who agree, speak now." One by one, the representatives voiced their support. Even the suspicious ones, even the scared ones. They all understood the truth. Without the humans, they were dead. "Then it is decided," Talvora announced. "From this day forward, humanity stands with the Galactic Alliance. May the stars guide us to victory." The next few weeks were chaos. Human ships flooded into Veltari space. Engineers from Earth met with alien scientists. Soldiers from different species trained together. Languages were learned. Customs were shared. Mistakes were made and forgiven. Chen found herself spending most of her time with a Veltari officer named Rexal. He was young for his species, only about 100 years old. He was curious about everything human. "Tell me about your world," he asked one evening. They were sitting in the observation deck of the Defiance, watching the stars drift by. "Tell me about Earth," Chen smiled. "What do you want to know?" "Everything. What is it like? What do humans do there?" She thought for a moment. "It's a beautiful place. We have oceans that cover most of the surface, huge forests, mountains that touch the clouds, deserts where nothing lives, and cities, billions of us packed into cities. You live in such close proximity? That must cause conflicts." "All the time," Chen admitted. "But we manage. We have laws. We have governments. We argue a lot. But we usually find ways to work things out." Rexall was quiet for a moment. "The Veltari are not like that. We spread out across our world. Each family claims a territory. We only come together for war or ceremony. Different species, different ways," Chen said. "That's okay. The point is that we both made it to the stars. That's what matters." "Your people adapted quickly to space travel," Rexall observed. "Our records show that you only developed faster than light technology 300 years ago. In that time, you have colonized a dozen worlds and built a powerful fleet. Most species take thousands of years to achieve what you did in centuries." Chen shrugged. "We're impatient." "You are remarkable," Rexall said. "Do you know how long it took the Veltari to reach our first colony? 2,000 years. You did it in 100. Your species moves faster than any we have ever encountered. Maybe that's because we don't live as long as you. Human lifespan is about 80 to 100 years. We don't have time to waste." Rexall's 4 eyes widened. "So short? How can you accomplish anything in such limited time?" "We work hard. We work fast. And we pass things on to the next generation. Every human builds on what came before. It's like a race that never ends. Each runner passes the baton to the next." She looked out at the stars. "My grandmother was born before humans landed on our moon. My mother saw the first colony ships leave for Mars. I grew up on a starship, traveling between solar systems. In 3 generations, we went from barely reaching space to exploring the galaxy. That's just how humans work." Rexall shook his head in amazement. "Your people are either very blessed or very cursed. Perhaps both. Probably both." Chen agreed. The alliance grew stronger every day. Human engineers taught the Veltari about kinetic weapons and nuclear technology. Veltari scientists shared their knowledge of shield generators and hyperspace navigation. Both sides learned from each other, but the Kreth were not idle. Reports came in from across the galaxy. The black ships had returned to the void between galaxies. They were gathering. More vessels arrived every day, appearing from the dark space beyond the stars. "They're building an armada," Morrison told the War Council. "Our scouts estimate at least 50,000 ships. Maybe more." The room fell silent. Even with the combined fleets of the Alliance, they had maybe 5,000 vessels ready for combat. 10-1 odds, Talvora said quietly. "We cannot win against such numbers." "Maybe not in a straight fight," Morrison replied. "But we don't have to fight straight. The Kreth are powerful, but they're not creative. They use the same tactics every time. Mass attacks, overwhelming force, no subtlety." "And you have a better idea?" Morrison nodded. "Humans learned a long time ago that you don't beat a bigger enemy by fighting fair. You beat them by being smarter, faster, and meaner. You hit them where they don't expect it. You take away their advantages. You make them fight on your terms, not theirs." He activated the holographic display. A map of the galaxy appeared, showing the positions of both fleets. "The Kreth staging area is here, in the void. They'll attack through this corridor, hitting these 3 systems first. That's what they did last time, and they'll do it again because it worked." He highlighted a different region of space. "We're not going to wait for them. We're going to hit them first. A strike force of fast ships, mostly human frigates and destroyers. We'll jump into their staging area, cause as much damage as possible, and jump out before they can respond." "That's suicide," a Dren admiral protested. "You'll be outnumbered 100-1. "Speed and surprise," Morrison said. "We won't stay long enough for them to catch us. We'll destroy supply ships, fuel depots, command vessels. We'll disrupt their preparations, buy ourselves more time." Zex then leaned forward. "I have studied human military history. Your people have a term for this kind of warfare. You call it guerrilla tactics? Something like that. Hit and run. Never give the enemy a fair fight. Never let them bring their full strength against you. It is dishonorable." The Marlac representative growled. "Battle should be fought with courage, face to face. With respect," Morrison replied. "Honor doesn't mean much when you're dead. I'd rather win ugly than lose beautifully." Chen watched the alien faces around the table. Some were offended, some were confused, but many were nodding. They were beginning to understand how humans thought. "The Veltari will support this plan," Zex then announced. "Admiral Morrison has proven himself in battle. I trust his judgment." One by one, the other delegates agreed. The vote was not unanimous, but it was enough. "Prepare the strike force," Talvora commanded. "We attack in 3 days." Captain Chen stood on the bridge of the Defiance as the strike force assembled. 50 human ships, 20 Veltari vessels, a handful of Dren scouts. It was a small force, barely 100 ships against an armada, but they were fast. And they were angry. "All ships report ready," Commander Jackson announced. Chen nodded. She looked at the view screen, at the stars that had become her home. "Open a channel to the fleet." Static crackled, then cleared. "This is Captain Chen of the Defiance. We're about to do something crazy. We're about to attack an enemy force that outnumbers us 500-1. Some of us won't come back." She paused. "I'm not going to pretend this is easy. I'm not going to give you speeches about glory or destiny. The truth is simple. The Kreth want to destroy everything we love. Our homes, our families, our species. We're going to stop them." Her voice hardened. "We're going to hit them so hard they'll never forget it. We're going to remind them that small doesn't mean weak. We're going to show them why humans are the most dangerous species in this galaxy." She smiled grimly. "All ships, engage hyperspace drives. Let's go hunting." The fleet vanished into faster-than-light space. Behind them, the stars continued their eternal dance, unchanged and uncaring. But something had shifted in the galaxy. Something new had arrived. Humanity was no longer hiding. Humanity was going to war, and the Kreth would learn what that meant. The strike force emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the Kreth staging area. Chen saw the enemy fleet spread out before her. Thousands of black ships, clustered around massive supply platforms. It was like looking at a sky full of angry stars. "All ships, weapons free," she ordered. "Pick your targets and fire at will." The Defiance surged forward. Its railguns opened fire. Nuclear missiles launched from their tubes. Laser beams cut through the darkness. The Kreth were caught completely off guard. They had not expected an attack here, in their own territory. Their response was slow, confused. Human ships tore through their formations. Veltari vessels struck from the flanks. Supply platforms exploded. Fuel depots burned. Command ships came apart under concentrated fire. Multiple kills confirmed, Jackson reported. Enemy response is disorganized. Keep pushing, Chen ordered. We have 3 minutes before they get their act together. Make every second count. The Defiance targeted a massive Kreth warship that seemed to be directing the defense. All weapons locked on. All weapons fired. The enemy ship staggered. Its shields flickered. Then they failed. The ship exploded in a blinding flash of light. Target destroyed, Jackson said with satisfaction. Time? 2 minutes remaining. Chen watched the battle unfold. They were doing incredible damage. Dozens of Kreth ships were destroyed or crippled. Entire supply stations were reduced to debris. But the enemy was starting to respond. More and more black ships were turning toward the strike force. 90 seconds. We need to go. All ships, prepare to withdraw. Chen broadcast. Good work, everyone. Let's get out of here. The fleet began to pull back. Some ships were slower than others. Chen saw a human frigate, the Hawthorne, limping away with damage to its engines. A pack of Kreth vessels was closing in. Cover the Hawthorne, she ordered. All ships, cover fire. The fleet turned and fired. Missiles and railgun rounds filled the space between them and the enemy. The Kreth advance slowed, just for a moment. It was enough. The Hawthorne reached the fleet. All ships engaged their hyperspace drives. The stars stretched into lines. Reality blurred. And then they were gone, leaving behind a devastated Kreth staging area and a very angry enemy. The first strike was complete. The war had truly begun. The news of the strike spread across the galaxy like fire. Human ships had attacked the Kreth in their own territory. They had destroyed supply lines. They had killed thousands of enemy vessels. They had done what no one thought possible. Captain Chen became famous overnight. Her face appeared on news broadcasts from 100 worlds. Species that had never heard of Earth suddenly wanted to know everything about these strange, aggressive creatures who fought like demons. But Chen had no time to enjoy her fame. The war was just beginning. She stood in the medical bay of the Defiance, looking at the rows of wounded sailors. Some had lost limbs. Some had lost eyes. Some would never walk again. The cost of victory was written on their bodies. You did good out there, a voice said behind her. She turned to find Admiral Morrison standing in the doorway. He looked tired. Everyone looked tired these days. We lost 8 ships, Chen said. 243 people, and we destroyed over 400 enemy vessels. We crippled their supply network. We bought ourselves at least a month of time. Is it enough? Morrison was quiet for a moment. I don't know. But it's more than we had before. They walked together through the corridors of the ship. Crew members saluted as they passed. Some whispered words of thanks. Chen felt uncomfortable with the attention. You know what I keep thinking about, she said. That Marlac delegate. The one who called our tactics dishonorable. What about him? He wasn't wrong. What we did out there, the hit-and-run attacks, the dirty fighting, it's not glorious. It's not noble. It's just survival. Morrison stopped walking. He turned to face her with serious eyes. Chen, let me tell you something. I've been a soldier my whole life. I fought in the African War. I fought in the Pacific conflict. I watched friends die in ways I still see in my nightmares. And you know what I learned? He leaned closer. There is no glory in war. There's just winning and losing. The winners get to write the history books and pretend they were heroes. The losers get forgotten. If fighting dirty keeps my people alive, I'll fight dirty. If being dishonorable wins the battle, I'll be dishonorable. Because at the end of the day, the only honor that matters is bringing your crew home safe. Chen nodded slowly. She understood. But understanding didn't make it easier. What happens now? She asked. Now we prepare for the real fight. The Kreth aren't going to wait forever. They're regrouping, rebuilding. Our scouts say they'll be ready to attack within 2 weeks. And we'll be ready for them? Morrison smiled grimly. We have to be. We don't have a choice. The next 2 weeks were a blur of activity. Ships were repaired. Weapons were upgraded. Tactics were refined. Human and alien crews trained together until they could fight as one. Chen spent most of her time with the other captains, planning and preparing. She got to know them well. There was Captain Torres of the Lightning, a young woman from Mars with a gift for tactical thinking. There was Commander Ven of the Iron Will, a veteran of 3 colonial wars. There was Admiral Zexthen, who had become a close friend despite their different species. "I do not understand humans," Zexthen admitted one evening. They were sharing a meal in the officers' mess, a strange combination of human and Veltari food. "You are so small. Your lives are so short. And yet you fight as if you have nothing to lose." "Maybe that's exactly why," Chen replied. "We don't have thousands of years to think about things. We have to act now, or we never will. Your species is barely 3 centuries into space travel. You should be timid, careful, afraid of making mistakes. We make plenty of mistakes, but we also learn from them quickly. Humans fail fast and adapt faster. It's how we survived on Earth. It's how we'll survive out here." Zexthen was quiet for a moment. He stirred his food with one of his 4 hands. "Before you came, we Veltari thought ourselves the masters of the galaxy. We had conquered so many. We were so powerful. And then the Kreth appeared, and we discovered that we were nothing." He looked up at Chen. "You have taught us something important, Captain. You have taught us humility. And you have taught us that strength is not the same as size. We've learned from you too," Chen said. "Your technology is amazing. Your history is incredible. Humans have only been in space for a few centuries. You've been traveling the stars for millennia. There's so much we don't know. Perhaps that is why we make good allies," Zexthen said. "We have what you need. You have what we need. Together, we are stronger than either alone." Chen raised her glass. "To the Alliance." Zexthen raised his own drink. "To the Alliance. And to victory." They drank together as the stars wheeled slowly outside the window. The Kreth came 2 days earlier than expected. Alarms screamed across the fleet. Chen ran to the bridge of the Defiance, still pulling on her uniform. The view screen showed a nightmare in motion. Thousands of black ships poured out of hyperspace. They filled the sky like a swarm of angry insects. "All hands to battle stations," Chen ordered. "Power up all weapons. Charge shields to maximum." "Captain," Jackson said, his voice tight with fear, "there are over 30,000 enemy vessels. We have less than 4,000. "I can count, Commander. Just do your job." The Allied fleet formed up in defensive positions. Human ships took the front lines, their kinetic weapons ready. Veltari vessels clustered behind them, their energy beams warming up. Dren scouts darted along the flanks, ready to report enemy movements. Admiral Morrison's voice came over the fleet channel. "All ships. This is the moment we've been preparing for. The Kreth are here. They think they can crush us with numbers. They're wrong." He paused. "We are the Galactic Alliance. We are humans and Veltari and Dren and a dozen other species. We fight together. We stand together. And today, we win together." The Kreth fleet opened fire. The sky erupted in fire. Energy beams slashed through space. Plasma bolts exploded against shields. Nuclear missiles streaked toward their targets. The noise of battle filled the void. Chen gripped the armrests of her chair as the Defiance shuddered under enemy fire. Their shields held, but she could see other ships falling. A Veltari cruiser broke apart in a flash of light. A human destroyer spun away, trailing smoke and debris. "Return fire," she shouted. "All batteries, target the nearest enemy vessel." The Defiance unleashed everything it had. Railgun rounds tore through Kreth armor. Missiles found their marks. Laser beams cut deep into enemy hulls. The targeted ships staggered and exploded, but there were so many more. "They're trying to overwhelm us," Jackson reported. "Standard swarm tactics. Quantity over quality. Then we make them pay for every ship they lose. Keep firing." The battle raged for hours. Ships died on both sides. The space between the fleets became a graveyard of wreckage and bodies. Chen lost track of how many times the Defiance nearly took a fatal hit, how many times they almost died, but they kept fighting. "Admiral Morrison has ordered a tactical withdrawal," Jackson announced. "We're pulling back to the secondary defensive line." "Understood. All engines full reverse. Cover the retreat." The Allied fleet began to fall back. It was not a rout, but it was close. Too many ships had been lost. Too many weapons were damaged. They could not hold this position, but the Kreth had paid dearly too. Thousands of their vessels drifted dead in space. Their advance had slowed. They had expected to crush the Alliance in hours. Instead, they were locked in a grinding battle of attrition. "We're hurting them," Chen said. "We're actually hurting them. But they're hurting us more," Jackson replied quietly. He was right. The Alliance could not afford to trade losses like this. They would run out of ships before the Kreth did. Something had to change. That night, the surviving commanders gathered on the Titan for an emergency council. The mood was grim. They had lost over 800 ships. The Kreth had lost 3 times that number, but they had ships to spare. "We cannot continue like this," Admiral Morrison said. His voice was hoarse from shouting orders all day. "We need a new strategy." "What strategy?" a Dren commander asked. "They outnumber us 10 to 1. Even with your weapons, we cannot defeat such odds." "There must be something," Zex then insisted. "Some weakness we can exploit." Chen had been thinking about this all day. Something had been nagging at the back of her mind. A pattern she had noticed during the battle. "Their command structure," she said suddenly. Everyone turned to look at her. "What about it?" Morrison asked. "During the battle, I noticed something. When we destroyed certain ships, whole sections of the Kreth fleet became confused. They stopped coordinating. They made mistakes." She activated the holographic display and pulled up battle recordings. "Look here. This large vessel in the center of their formation. When we hit it, the ships around it lost organization for several minutes. The same thing happened here, and here." She highlighted more examples. "The Kreth don't think independently. They rely on command ships to direct them. Take out the commanders, and the whole fleet falls apart." Morrison leaned forward, interested. "How many command ships are there?" "Based on the battle data, I estimate about 50. They're larger than the others, and they stay in the rear of the formation. We haven't been targeting them specifically." 50 ships, Zex then mused. "That is still a difficult target." "Not if we hit them all at once," Chen said. "A coordinated strike. Fast ships only. Jump past the main fleet, hit the command vessels, jump out before anyone can react." "You're talking about flying directly into their formation," Morrison said. "That's suicide." "Maybe. But if it works, it could cripple their entire fleet." The room was silent. Everyone was thinking about the risk, about the lives that would be lost. Finally, Morrison spoke. "It's crazy. It's dangerous. And it might be our only chance." He looked around the table. "Any other ideas?" No one spoke. "Then we plan for Chen's assault. Get me the 50 fastest ships we have. Volunteer crews only. This is a one-way mission for some of us." Chen straightened in her chair. "Admiral, with respect, I should lead the mission. It's my plan." "I know. That's why I'm putting you in command. Don't make me regret it." "I won't, sir." The meeting ended. The commanders scattered to their ships. They had 24 hours to prepare. Chen returned to the Defiance and gathered her crew on the hangar deck. She looked at their faces. Young and old, human and alien. All of them tired. All of them scared. "I'm not going to lie to you," she said. "What we're about to do is dangerous. Some of us won't come back. I'm asking for volunteers only. If you want to transfer to another ship, no one will blame you." She waited. No one moved. "Ma'am," Commander Jackson said, "where else would we go? We're family. We stick together." Chen felt her throat tighten. She nodded. "All right, get some rest. Tomorrow, we make history." The attack force assembled at dawn. 50 ships, the fastest in the fleet. Most were human frigates and destroyers. A few Veltari scouts had volunteered to join them. Even a handful of Dren vessels had come. Chen stood on the bridge of the Defiance and watched the main fleet take up defensive positions. They would engage the Kreth head-on, drawing their attention. While the enemy focused on the main battle, Chen's force would slip behind their lines. "All ships, check in," she ordered. 50 voices responded. 50 captains ready to die for the mission. "Remember the plan," Chen said. "Fast and quiet until we reach the target zone. Then hit them with everything we have. Destroy the command ships and get out. Don't stop for anything." She took a deep breath. "It's been an honor serving with all of you. Let's show these invaders what the Galactic Alliance can do." The main fleet engaged the enemy. Weapons fire filled the sky. Explosions blossomed in the darkness. The Kreth surged forward, pressing their advantage, and 50 small ships slipped past them. invisible in the chaos of battle. Chen watched the Kreeth formation scroll by on her sensors. So many ships, so many weapons. If they were spotted, they were dead. Approaching target zone, Jackson whispered. 90 seconds to contact. Power up weapons. Prepare to fire on my mark. The command ships loomed ahead. They were massive vessels, 10 times the size of the Defiance, heavily armored, bristling with weapons, and completely focused on the main battle. All ships. Select your targets. Fire on my command. Chen counted down in her head. 30 seconds. 20. 10. Now. All weapons, fire. 50 ships opened fire simultaneously. Railgun rounds slammed into command vessels. Nuclear missiles detonated against their hulls. Laser beams cut through their armor. The Kreeth never saw it coming. Command ships exploded one after another. Chen watched the chain reaction ripple through the enemy fleet. Without their commanders, the Kreeth ships began to drift. Their formations broke apart. Their coordinated attacks dissolved into chaos. Multiple targets destroyed, Jackson reported, amazement in his voice. They're falling apart. Don't stop. Keep firing. Hit every command ship you can find. The attack continued for 3 minutes. 3 minutes of pure destruction. 42 command ships were destroyed. The Kreeth fleet dissolved into a disorganized mob. Enemy response. They're turning toward us. All ships withdraw. Jump to hyperspace now. The 50 ships scattered. Some made it, some didn't. Chen saw the Hawthorne take a direct hit and vanish in a ball of fire. She saw a Veltari scout spin away, disabled. The Defiance shuddered as enemy fire raked its hull. Hyperspace drive, now. The stars stretched. Reality blurred. And then they were gone. The aftermath was chaos. The Kreeth fleet, without its command structure, fell into confusion. The main Allied fleet pressed their advantage, attacking with renewed fury. Thousands of enemy ships were destroyed. Thousands more fled into hyperspace. By the time the battle ended, the Kreeth had lost half their fleet. The survivors retreated to the void between galaxies. Their invasion shattered. The Galactic Alliance had won. Chen returned to the Titan to find a celebration already in progress. Crews from a dozen species cheered and embraced. Enemies who had faced death together were now brothers and sisters in victory. Admiral Morrison found her in the crowd. His face was streaked with tears, though he tried to hide them. You did it, he said. You actually did it. We all did it, Chen replied. Every ship, every sailor, everyone who fought today. 18 ships from your strike force didn't make it back. 1,200 people, Chen nodded. The weight of those deaths would stay with her forever. They died saving the galaxy, she said. We'll remember them. Morrison put a hand on her shoulder. You're getting a promotion for this, and probably a lot of medals. The Alliance wants to honor you. I don't want medals. I just want this war to be over, soon. The Kreeth are broken. They'll need years to recover. Maybe they won't come back at all. Chen looked out the window at the stars. So many lights in the darkness, so many worlds, so many species. And now, humanity was part of it all. What happens now? She asked. Now we rebuild. We strengthen the Alliance. We prepare for whatever comes next. The galaxy knows about humans now. For better or worse, everything has changed. Chen nodded. Everything had changed. And somehow, despite all the death and destruction, that felt right. Humanity had answered a call for help. They had fought beside strangers. They had won against impossible odds, and they were just getting started. 6 months passed after the great victory. The Galactic Alliance grew stronger every day. New species joined, eager to stand with the coalition that had defeated the Kreeth. Trade routes opened. Borders relaxed. For the first time in centuries, the galaxy knew something like peace. Admiral Sarah Chen stood on the observation deck of the Titan and watched the lights of Veltara Prime glitter below. She still was not used to her new rank. She still felt like a simple ship captain, but the Alliance had insisted on honoring her, and now she commanded the combined human fleet. Beautiful, isn't it? Admiral Morrison said, joining her at the window. He had aged in the past months. His hair was completely gray now, his face lined with exhaustion. War had taken its toll on all of them. It is, Chen agreed. Sometimes I forget why we fight. Then I look at something like this, and I remember. We fight so people can enjoy views like this without fear. They stood in comfortable silence for a moment. Below them, Veltari children played in floating gardens. Couples walked hand in hand along crystalline bridges. Life continued, despite everything. The council wants to discuss the reconstruction plans tomorrow, Morrison said. They want human engineers to help rebuild the destroyed worlds. We'll send whoever we can. There's something else. Intelligence reports from the void. The Kreth are still out there. They're rebuilding. Chen felt a cold weight settle in her stomach. How long before they're ready to attack again? Unknown. Could be years. Could be months. Our scouts can't get close enough to find out. We should strike first. Hit them before they recover. Morrison shook his head. The Alliance Council has debated that option. Most species are against it. They want peace. They want to believe the war is over. The war isn't over until the Kreth are defeated. I know. But we can't fight alone. And we can't force our allies to fight if they don't want to. Chen turned away from the window. Her jaw was tight with frustration. So we wait. We let them rebuild. And then we fight the same battle all over again. Except this time they'll be ready for our tactics. Unless we find another way. What other way? Morrison looked at her with tired eyes. I don't know yet. But we're humans. We'll think of something. The answer came 3 weeks later. From an unexpected source. A Dren scout ship limped into Alliance space, barely functional. Its crew was exhausted, terrified. They had been lost in the void for months, far deeper than any Alliance vessel had ever traveled, and they had found something. Chen was there when the Dren captain gave his report. His silver skin was dull with fatigue, and his voice trembled as he spoke. We found their homeworld, he said. The Kreth. We found where they come from. The council chamber erupted in shocked murmurs. No one had ever discovered the Kreth origin point. Most assumed they had no single home, that they were nomads drifting between galaxies. Are you certain? High Chancellor Telvora demanded. Certain, Chancellor. We observed it for 3 days before they detected us. It is a massive structure, larger than any planet. A sphere around a dying star. Millions of Kreth vessels are docked there. Millions more are being constructed. Chen felt her blood run cold. Millions of ships. Even with the Alliance's new strength, they could not fight millions of ships. There is more, the Dren captain continued. We intercepted their communications. The Kreth are not just rebuilding. They are preparing for something much larger. A final attack, they call it. They plan to sweep through this galaxy and destroy every living species. No survivors. No mercy. Silence fell over the chamber. How long? Admiral Zex then asked quietly. Based on their construction rate, we estimate 2 years. Perhaps less, if they accelerate their schedule. 2 years. In 2 years, the Kreth would return with an unstoppable armada. Every world in the Alliance would burn. Every species would be exterminated. Chen looked around the room. She saw fear in alien eyes. She saw despair. She saw defeat, and she refused to accept it. Then we don't have a choice, she said, standing from her seat. We attack their homeworld. We destroy it before they can launch their fleet. That's impossible, a Marlac delegate protested. You heard the report. Millions of ships defend that structure. We cannot fight millions. We don't have to fight all of them. We just need to destroy the structure, take out their production capacity, strand their fleet without reinforcements. And how do you propose to do that? Chen looked at Morrison. He nodded slowly, understanding what she was thinking. We build something that can punch through their defenses, Chen said. Something big, something they've never seen before. A weapon so powerful that nothing can stop it. What kind of weapon? Chen smiled grimly. The kind humans are very good at making. The project took 6 months. Engineers from every species in the Alliance worked together. Human scientists shared their most advanced weapons research. Veltari engineers contributed their knowledge of energy manipulation. Dren specialists designed the targeting systems. They called it the World Breaker. Chen watched its construction from the observation platform of the shipyard. It was massive, larger than any vessel ever built. Its hull was 100 kilometers long, covered with armor plates thicker than buildings. Its engines could move entire moons, and at its core sat a weapon that could crack planets. It's beautiful, Rexal said, standing beside her. The young Veltari had become one of her closest advisors. And terrible. It's necessary, Chen replied. The Kreth want to destroy everything. We have to hit them first, and hit them hard enough that they can never recover. Do you ever wonder if we're becoming like them? Building weapons of destruction? Planning attacks on their home? Chen was quiet for a moment. She had asked herself the same question many times. The difference is why we fight, she said finally. The Kreth kill because they want to, because they enjoy it. We kill because we have to, because there's no other way to protect the people we love. Is that enough? It has to be. Construction continued. The world breaker took shape piece by piece. Millions of workers labored day and night. Resources from a dozen worlds flowed into the project. The Alliance poured everything it had into this single vessel. But the Kreth were not idle. Reports came in from scouts along the void. The enemy fleet was mobilizing earlier than expected. Something had changed. They were preparing to attack sooner than anyone thought possible. We're out of time, Morrison announced at an emergency council meeting. The Kreth will launch their invasion within the month. The world breaker is only 70% complete. Then we complete it faster, Chen said. We're already working around the clock. The engineers are exhausted. The supply lines are strained to breaking point. We push harder. We have no choice. The next 3 weeks were a nightmare. Workers collapsed from exhaustion. Accidents killed dozens. Supply ships arrived empty because worlds had nothing left to give. The Alliance was burning itself out to finish the weapon. And still the Kreth came. The enemy fleet emerged from the void like a tide of darkness. 50,000 ships, more than anyone had predicted. They swept toward Alliance space with unstoppable momentum. The outer colonies are falling, Zex then reported. His voice was hollow with despair. 3 worlds destroyed in the first wave. The Kreth are not taking prisoners. They are killing everyone. Chen clenched her fists. How long until they reach the core systems? At their current speed, 2 weeks. Maybe less. 2 weeks. The world breaker needed 3 more weeks to complete. We have to slow them down, Chen said. Buy more time. How? Our fleet is gathered here to defend the shipyard. If we send ships to fight the Kreth advance, we weaken our defenses. If we don't slow them down, there won't be anything left to defend. She turned to Morrison. I'll take half the fleet. Engage the enemy along the corridor worlds. Hit and run. Just like before. We don't need to defeat them. We just need to delay them. You'll be outnumbered 10 to 1 at least. I know. Morrison studied her face for a long moment. Then he nodded. Take whatever ships you need. And come back alive. That's an order. The battle for the corridor worlds was the bloodiest fighting the war had seen. Chen led her fleet against impossible odds, striking and retreating, bleeding the enemy 1 ship at a time. They fought at Bellow Station, where human frigates held a choke point for 18 hours against overwhelming numbers. They fought in the Ash Nebula, using the cosmic dust to hide their positions and ambush enemy convoys. They fought at the gates of Dren Prime, where alien and human sailors died side by side to protect millions of civilians fleeing the advance. Chen did not sleep. She barely ate. She commanded her fleet from the bridge of the Defiance, watching her ships die one by one, but they slowed the Kreth. Day by day, battle by battle, they bought precious time for the world breaker. Admiral, Jackson said, his voice exhausted, we've lost another 30 ships. Our effective strength is down to 40%. And the Kreth? They've lost 5 times that number. But they can afford the losses. We can't. Chen nodded. They had done what they could. It was time to fall back. All ships. Retreat to the shipyard. Maximum speed. The remnants of her fleet limped home. Of the 2,000 ships she had led into battle, less than 800 remained. The rest were scattered across a dozen star systems as burning wreckage. But they had done it. They had bought the 3 weeks the world breaker needed. When Chen finally saw the completed weapon, she nearly wept. It hung in space like a mountain given form, bristling with weapons, glowing with power. It was the most magnificent and terrifying thing she had ever seen. Is it ready? She asked. Ready as it will ever be, Morrison replied. He looked as exhausted as she felt. The crew is boarding now. 300,000 personnel from every species in the Alliance. Who commands it? Morrison smiled wearily. You do, the council voted. You've earned it. Chen stared at the massive vessel. She thought of all the sailors who had died to make this moment possible. She thought of the worlds that had burned. She thought of the species counting on her to save them. Then let's finish this, she said. Once and for all, the Worldbreaker launched 2 days later. The Allied fleet formed up around it in a massive protective formation. Every ship they had, every weapon they could muster. They traveled through hyperspace for 6 days, deeper into the void than any Alliance vessel had gone before. The stars grew sparse. The darkness grew absolute. They were entering the domain of the Kreth. Chen stood on the bridge of the Worldbreaker and watched the darkness beyond the view screen. Somewhere out there, their enemy waited. Millions of ships, the entire species, everything the Kreth had. Jump complete, the navigation officer announced. We have arrived at the target location. The view screen flickered and resolved into an image that stole Chen's breath. The Kreth homeworld was not a planet. It was a sphere of metal and energy surrounding a dying red star. Its surface was covered with shipyards and factories, weapons, platforms, and docking bays. It was larger than gas giants, larger than anything nature had ever created, and around it swirled the Kreth fleet. Millions of black ships, more than she could count, more than she could imagine. They filled the sky like a swarm of insects. My God, Jackson whispered. All ships, battle stations, Chen ordered. Her voice was steady even though her heart was pounding. This is what we came for. Let's make it count. The Kreth fleet surged toward them. Weapons fire filled the void. Alliance ships exploded. Enemy ships died. The battle became a blur of fire and death. The Worldbreaker pressed forward through the chaos. Its shields absorbed devastating hits. Its weapons carved paths through enemy formations. It was taking damage, terrible damage, but it kept moving. Primary weapon charging, the weapons officer reported. 60%. 70%. All escort ships, protect the weapon. Buy us time. Alliance vessels threw themselves at the Kreth. They died by the hundreds, but they slowed the enemy advance. They gave the Worldbreaker the seconds it needed. 80%. 90%. Primary weapon fully charged. Target the center of the structure. Chen ordered. Fire on my command. The Worldbreaker lined up its shot. The massive weapon at its core glowed with terrible energy. Every system strained to contain the power building inside. Chen looked at the Kreth homeworld. Millions of their species lived on that structure. When she gave the order, they would all die. She thought of the worlds they had destroyed, the billions they had killed, the extinction they planned for every species in the galaxy, and she gave the order. Fire. The weapon released. A beam of pure, destructive energy lanced across space. It struck the Kreth structure at the center point. It burned through metal and machinery, through factories and shipyards, through the layers of protection surrounding the dying star, and then it reached the star itself. The explosion was visible across the galaxy. A dying sun, pushed past its limit, erupted in a final burst of fury. The Kreth structure vaporized. Their fleet, caught in the blast radius, was swept away like dust in a hurricane. Millions of ships, millions of Kreth, gone in a single moment of cosmic fire. Target destroyed, the weapons officer said quietly. The bridge was silent. Everyone stared at the view screen, at the expanding cloud of debris where the enemy homeworld had been. Chen felt no triumph. She felt only a deep, aching emptiness. They had won, but the cost had been higher than she ever imagined. The surviving Kreth scattered. Without their homeworld, without their fleet, they were broken. Alliance ships hunted them through the void, destroying the last remnants of the enemy force. Within a month, the war was over. Chen returned to Veltara Prime a hero. Crowds cheered her name. Statues were raised in her honor. The Alliance declared a day of celebration across every member world. But Chen did not feel like celebrating. She stood alone on a balcony overlooking the capital city. Fireworks exploded in the sky above. Music and laughter drifted up from the streets below. The galaxy was celebrating its survival, and all Chen could think about was how many had died to make this moment possible. Admiral Morrison found her there as the festivities continued. "You should be down there," he said. "They want to thank you." "I don't deserve thanks. I gave the order that killed millions. You gave the order that saved billions. Does one cancel out the other?" Morrison was quiet for a moment. Then he spoke softly. "No, it doesn't. That's the terrible truth of command. You make choices that kill people. And you live with those choices forever. How do you do it? How do you keep going? You remember why you fight. Not for glory, not for victory. For the people you protect. For the futures you preserve. For the children who will grow up in a galaxy where they never have to fear the Kreth. Chen looked down at the celebrating crowds. She saw Human and Veltari dancing together. She saw Dren and Marlak sharing drinks and laughter. She saw species that had been enemies a year ago now standing as friends. Maybe that was worth it. Maybe the peace they had won justified the blood they had spilled. She wanted to believe that. She needed to believe that. What happens now? She asked. Now we rebuild. We heal. We make sure this never happens again. Morrison put a hand on her shoulder. And we do it together. Human and alien. One alliance. One galaxy. Chen nodded slowly. The war was over. The future was uncertain. But for the first time in a long time, she felt something like hope. Maybe that was enough. 5 years had passed since the destruction of the Kreth homeworld. The galaxy had changed in ways no one could have predicted. Old empires crumbled. New alliances formed. And at the center of it all stood humanity. No longer newcomers to the stars, but leaders of a new age. Admiral Sarah Chen walked through the halls of the Galactic Council building on Veltara Prime. Her footsteps echoed on the polished floors. Delegates from 100 species nodded as she passed. Some bowed, some saluted. All showed respect. It still felt strange to her. Strange to be honored. Strange to be famous. Strange to carry the weight of so many expectations. Admiral Chen, a voice called. She turned to find Rexal hurrying toward her. The Veltari had grown in the years since the war. He was taller now, his forearms thick with muscle. He served as the liaison between the human fleet and the Veltari military. Rexal. What's wrong? Nothing is wrong. The opposite, actually. The council has reached a decision. They want to see you. What decision? Rexal smiled in the strange way Veltari did, his 4 eyes crinkling at the corners. You will see. They walked together to the main council chamber. The room was packed with delegates from every member species. Chen saw humans and Veltari, Dren and Marlak, Hollow and dozens of others. All eyes turned to her as she entered. High Chancellor Talvora rose from her throne. She had aged dramatically in the past 5 years. Her blue skin was pale, her movements slow, but her voice was still strong. Admiral Chen, thank you for coming. Chancellor, I was told there was a decision. Yes. A historic decision. The Council has voted to restructure the Galactic Alliance. We are creating a new position, a unified military command that will oversee the defense of all member worlds. Chen felt a flicker of understanding. And you want a human to lead it. We want you to lead it, Talvora corrected. Not because you are human, because you have proven yourself. You saved us all. You defeated the Kreth. You represent everything the Alliance stands for. The chamber fell silent. Every delegate watched Chen, waiting for her response. She thought about it carefully. This was not just an honor. It was a responsibility beyond anything she had ever imagined. Command of the entire Alliance military. Billions of soldiers. Thousands of ships. The power to shape the future of the galaxy. I'm not sure I'm the right person, she said finally. None of us are ever sure, Talvora replied. That is what makes you qualified. You understand the weight of command. You understand the cost of war. You will use this power wisely. Chen looked around the chamber. She saw hope in alien faces. She saw trust. She saw the future. All right, she said. I'll do it. But I have conditions. Name them. First, the position is temporary. 5 years. Then it goes to someone else. No one should hold this kind of power forever. Second, every major decision requires council approval. I'm a soldier, not a dictator. Third, humans don't get special treatment. We're part of the Alliance, not above it. Talvora nodded approvingly. These are wise conditions. The council accepts. A wave of applause filled the chamber. Delegates rose to their feet, cheering and stamping. Chen stood in the center of it all, feeling the weight of history settle on her shoulders. She had come so far. From a simple ship captain to the military leader of the entire galaxy. It seemed impossible. It seemed like a dream, but it was real. And now she had work to do. The first year of Chen's command was devoted to rebuilding. The war had devastated entire regions of space. Billions had died. Countless worlds lay in ruins. She traveled from system to system, overseeing reconstruction efforts. Human engineers worked beside Veltari architects. Dren doctors treated patients from every species. The Alliance came together in ways it never had before. "You're working yourself to death," Morrison told her one evening. They were sharing dinner on a station orbiting a recovering world. Below them, construction crews rebuilt a city that the Kreth had destroyed. "Someone has to do it. There are other admirals, other commanders. You don't have to carry everything alone." Chen smiled tiredly. "Old habits. When I was captain of the Defiance, I felt responsible for every sailor on my ship. Now I feel responsible for every person in the Alliance. That's billions of people. You can't save them all." "I can try." Morrison shook his head, but he was smiling. "You're the most stubborn person I've ever met, human or otherwise. That's why you promoted me." They laughed together. It was a rare moment of peace in an endless tide of work, but the work continued. Chen established new defensive networks to protect vulnerable worlds. She created training programs that mixed human and alien tactics. She negotiated treaties that brought neutral species into the Alliance, and slowly, the galaxy healed. In the second year of Chen's command, a crisis emerged from an unexpected direction. The Hollow, the energy beings who had always been the most mysterious members of the Alliance, suddenly withdrew from council meetings. Their ambassadors vanished. Their ships stopped responding to communications. "What's happening with them?" Chen demanded. No one knew. The Hollow had always been secretive, rarely sharing information about their culture or technology. Now, they had gone completely silent. Chen decided to investigate personally. She took a small fleet to the Hollow home system, a strange region of space where reality seemed to blur at the edges. What she found there shocked her. The Hollow were dying. Their energy forms were fading, growing dim. Thousands of them drifted in space, barely conscious. "What is this?" Chen asked their leader, a bright sphere of golden light named Luminex. "We are sick," Luminex said. His voice was weak, barely audible. "A disease of pure energy. It has spread through our entire species. We are fading. Why didn't you ask for help?" "Pride. Fear. We are the oldest species in the galaxy. We have never needed assistance from others. We thought we could solve this alone." Chen felt anger and pity mixed together. "That's foolish. The Alliance exists, so no one has to face problems alone. We understand that now. But it may be too late." Chen refused to accept that. She called in every scientist the Alliance had. Human researchers, Veltari doctors, Dren specialists. They worked together, studying the disease, searching for a cure. It took 3 months. 3 months of desperate effort, of failed experiments, of sleepless nights. But finally, a human scientist named Dr. Marcus Webb made a breakthrough. "It's an energy imbalance," he explained excitedly. "The Hollow are made of pure energy, but they need trace elements from physical matter to maintain stability. Over millions of years, they've been slowly depleted. We can restore the balance by exposing them to a specific mineral compound found in asteroids." The treatment was simple once they understood the problem. Alliance ships gathered the mineral compound from asteroids across the galaxy. The Hollow absorbed it, and their energy forms stabilized. Within 6 months, the crisis was over. The Hollow had been saved. Luminex came to Chen personally to express gratitude, the energy being glowed brighter than she had ever seen. "You saved my species," Luminex said. "We owe you everything. You don't owe me anything. That's what the Alliance does. We help each other. We Hollow have always considered ourselves superior to physical beings. You have taught us humility, and you have taught us the value of connection." From that day forward, the Hollow became the strongest supporters of the Alliance. They shared their ancient knowledge freely. They contributed their unique abilities to Alliance projects. They became true partners instead of distant observers, and Chen learned a valuable lesson. Sometimes the greatest victories were not won with weapons, but with compassion. In the 3rd year of Chen's command, the galaxy faced a new threat. It started with strange signals from the void. Ships began disappearing near the border of known space. At first, everyone feared the Kreth had returned, but this was something different. The first contact came at a remote research station. Chen was there when a massive vessel emerged from hyperspace. It was unlike anything she had ever seen, organic and technological at once, a living ship that breathed and moved. "This is the collective mind," a voice broadcast on all frequencies. "We have observed your conflict. We have watched your war. We have decided to make contact." Chen's hand hovered over the weapon's control. Who are you? What do you want? We are the collective mind. We are billions of individuals joined into one consciousness. We span 100 galaxies. We have existed for millions of years. That doesn't answer my question. What do you want? The voice was silent for a moment. When it spoke again, there was something like curiosity in its tone. We want to understand you. Specifically, we want to understand the species called humans. You are unusual. You are fascinating. You have done things that should not be possible. What kind of things? You defeated the Kreth. The Kreth were our creation. We sent them into your galaxy to test the species here, to see if any were worthy of notice. None ever were. Until you. Chen felt cold fury rising in her chest. You created the Kreth? You're responsible for everything they did? The billions they killed? We are. Does this anger you? You're damn right it angers me. Those were innocent people. Entire species were wiped out because of your test. Unfortunate. But necessary. The weak must be removed so the strong can flourish. This is the law of existence. Chen gripped the arms of her chair until her knuckles turned white. She wanted to order an attack. She wanted to destroy this ship and everyone on it. But she knew that would be suicide. If the collective mind truly spanned 100 galaxies, they were unimaginably powerful. The Alliance could not win a war against them, so she did something harder than fighting. She controlled her anger and thought carefully. You say you want to understand humans, she said. Fine. I'll tell you about us. We are small. We are weak. We live short lives and we make constant mistakes. But we also care about each other. We protect those who cannot protect themselves. We fight for things bigger than ourselves. She leaned forward. The Kreth killed billions of people. Our response was not to run or surrender. Our response was to fight back, to sacrifice everything to protect strangers we had never met. That's what makes us human, not strength, not power. Compassion, courage, the refusal to give up even when everything seems hopeless. The collective mind was silent for a long moment. Interesting, it said finally. You do not fear us. You do not submit. Even now, facing an entity vast beyond your comprehension, you speak with defiance. You killed our friends. You threatened our families. What did you expect? We expected you to be like all the others. Frightened, submissive, desperate to survive. Instead, you stand tall and challenge us. The voice changed, becoming almost warm. This is what made you worthy of notice. This is why we came. We have encountered 1 million species across the universe. Most are forgettable. But you, humans, you are remarkable. Chen did not relax. What do you want from us? Simply to observe, to learn. We will not harm your alliance. The test is complete. You have passed. And if we had failed, if the Kreth had destroyed us, then you would have been forgotten. Like all the others, the massive ship began to pull away. Its engines glowed with strange energy. We will be watching you, humans, the collective mind said. We are curious to see what you will become. Perhaps, in time, you will join us among the great powers of the universe. Until then, farewell. The ship vanished into hyperspace, leaving Chen alone with her fury and her fear. She had won again. But now she knew there were forces in the universe far greater than anything the Alliance had faced. The galaxy was not safe. It would never be truly safe. All they could do was keep fighting, keep growing, keep proving themselves worthy of survival. In the 4th year of Chen's command, the Alliance expanded beyond anyone's dreams. New species joined every month. Exploration ships pushed into unknown regions of space. Colonies spread across 1,000 worlds, and humans were at the heart of it all. Chen traveled constantly, meeting with alien leaders, resolving disputes, building connections. She saw wonders that took her breath away. Cities that floated in the clouds, forests that covered entire moons, species so alien she could barely comprehend them, but she never forgot where she came from. Once a year, she returned to Earth. She walked the streets of her hometown. She visited her family's graves. She remembered the small blue planet where humanity had been born. Do you ever regret it? Rexall asked during one of these visits. He had become her closest friend over the years. Leaving your world behind? Spending your life among the stars? Chen thought about the question carefully. Sometimes, she admitted. Sometimes I miss the simple things. The smell of rain, the sound of birds, the feeling of real ground under my feet. She looked up at the sky, at the faint lights of distant stars. But then I remember what we've accomplished, what we've built, the millions of lives we've saved, the future we've created, and I know it was worth it. You have changed the galaxy, Rexall said. Your species has changed everything. We had help. We couldn't have done it alone. That is true. But you were the spark that started the fire. You answered our call when no one else would. You showed us what courage looks like. Chen smiled. We're still learning. We're still making mistakes, but we're trying. That's all anyone can do. In the 5th year of Chen's command, she stepped down. True to her word, she handed over leadership to her successor, a Veltari admiral named Talrex, who had proven himself in dozens of battles. The retirement ceremony was held on Veltara Prime. Every member species sent representatives. The crowd was so large it filled an entire stadium. Chen stood at the podium and looked out at the assembled masses. Human and alien faces stared back at her. Friends she had made, enemies she had defeated, partners she had worked beside for years. I never wanted to be a hero, she began. I never asked for fame or power. I was just a ship captain who answered a distress call. I did what any decent person would do. I helped someone in need. She paused, but that small choice led to everything else. It led to alliance and war, to victory and loss, to moments of despair and moments of triumph. It taught me that every action matters, that courage is not about being fearless, but about doing what's right, even when you're terrified. She looked at the crowd with tears in her eyes. I am proud of what we have built together. A galaxy united, a future full of possibility. But our work is not finished. It will never be finished. There will always be new challenges, new threats, new opportunities. All I ask is that you face them the same way we faced the Kreth. Together, with courage, and with hope. The crowd erupted in applause. Chen stood there, accepting their gratitude, feeling the weight of history lift from her shoulders. She had done what she could. Now it was someone else's turn. Chen spent her retirement years on a small colony world at the edge of Alliance space. She built a house overlooking an alien ocean. She watched strange birds wheel across unfamiliar skies. She lived simply and quietly, but she was not forgotten. Visitors came constantly, old friends wanting to reminisce, young soldiers seeking advice, historians wanting to record her stories. She welcomed them all. One day, many years later, a young human girl came to see her. The child was perhaps 8 years old, born on a colony world thousands of light years from Earth. Are you really Admiral Chen? The girl asked with wide eyes. Chen smiled. She was old now, her hair completely white, her body frail, but her eyes were still sharp. I used to be. Now I'm just Sarah. My teacher says you saved the galaxy. I helped save it. A lot of other people did most of the work. The girl thought about this for a moment. Then she asked the question that children always ask. What was it like? Being a hero? Chen looked out at the ocean. She thought of all the battles she had fought, all the friends she had lost, all the choices she had made, both good and terrible. It was hard, she said finally. It was scary. There were times I wanted to give up, times I thought I couldn't go on. But you didn't give up. No, I didn't. Because there were people counting on me. Because I knew that if I quit, others would suffer. So I kept going, even when it hurt, even when I was tired and afraid. She turned to look at the child. That's what being a hero really means. Not being strong or brave or special. Just refusing to stop. Refusing to abandon the people who need you. Doing your best, even when your best doesn't feel like enough. The girl nodded solemnly, trying to understand. Could I be a hero someday? Chen smiled and reached out to touch the child's face. You already are. Everyone who tries to make the universe a better place is a hero. You don't need a fleet of ships or a fancy title. You just need a kind heart and the courage to use it. The girl smiled and hugged her. Chen held on tight, feeling the warmth of young life against her old bones. The future was uncertain. There would be more wars, more challenges, more moments of crisis. But looking at this child, Chen felt something she had not felt in a long time. Hope. Humanity had stormed into the galaxy answering a call for help. They had found friends and enemies. They had faced impossible odds and survived. They had proven themselves worthy of the stars, and the adventure was just beginning. Chen closed her eyes and listened to the ocean waves. She thought of all the people she had loved, all the battles she had won, all the lives she had touched. It had been a good life, a meaningful life, and somewhere out there, among the stars, new heroes were rising, new stories were being written. The galaxy kept turning, full of danger and wonder and endless possibility. Humanity had found its place among the stars. They had earned it with blood and sacrifice, with courage and compassion. They had answered the call, stormed into the galaxy, and changed everything, and they would never stop. That was the human way, always reaching, always growing, always fighting for a better tomorrow. The end was just another beginning.